All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going head-to-head with one of the biggest philosophical mysteries out there, the battle between fate and free will. I mean, are you actually the author of your own life, or is everything just playing out according to some script that was written long before you even got here? Today, we're going to break down the actual mechanics of karma from our source material and completely reframe how we look at our own destiny. So, the really big question we've got to tackle first is this. Is it actually possible to overcome fate, or does everything happen according to a pre-written script? Let's be honest, a lot of us walk around feeling like we're just passengers on a ride we have absolutely no control over. We tend to assume that if bad things happen, well, it's just destiny. And if good things happen, we just got lucky. But is that really how the universe operates? To figure this out, our source material introduces this hilarious yet painfully accurate little parable. It perfectly highlights how our minds usually work. The story goes like this. There's this ship caught in an absolutely terrifying hurricane. Everyone on board is praying for their lives. And this wealthy merchant makes a desperate vow to God. He says, "Save me, and I swear I will sell my massive mansion and donate every single penny to your temple." Miraculously, the storm stops. The guy survives. But the second his feet hit dry land, he starts having second thoughts. I mean, it's a multi-crew mansion. So what does he do? He finds a loophole. He lists the house for a mere 1,000 rupees, and he prices his pet puppy at 3 crores. He sells them together as a package deal, donates the 1,000 rupees to the temple, pockets the 3 crores, and genuinely thinks he just successfully outsmarted God. Now, our source material forces us to make a really interesting comparison here. We can laugh at the merchant, sure, but honestly, don't we kind of do the exact same thing? We so often treat the universe or God like a corrupt politician or a judge who can just be bribed. We think, if I just do this specific ritual, if I donate this chunk of money, the universe will look the other way and just hand me what I want. But does the universe actually operate on this weird transactional, bribery-based system? And that builds to a really uncomfortable question. If we assume God is the ultimate doer of every single action, and we're all basically just puppets on a string, then we have to ask, is God responsible for all the injustice in the world? Because if one person is born into perfect health and luxury, and another into terrible suffering, and God is the one pulling those strings, isn't that incredibly unfair? The text argues that this whole fatalistic view just completely falls apart when you apply basic logic. To counter that puppet master idea, the source shares another great story about a poor sage who's stitching his torn clothes. God appears, feels bad for the guy, and insists on granting him a blessing. The sage, who honestly doesn't want anything, finally sighs and says, "Fine, bless me so that whenever I stitch my clothes, the thread always follows the needle." God is totally confused and replies, "But the thread is already coming behind the needle. There is literally nothing for me to bless here." The sage's point is profound. The universe operates on natural established laws. God doesn't need to micromanage the thread, just like divine intervention doesn't micromanage our daily actions. Which brings us right to the actual mechanics of these natural laws, the 3 karmas. Let's look at the first one, which is absolutely crucial, sanchita karma. This is the aggregate sum total of all your past karmas. Think of it like a massive, overflowing vault holding every single good and bad deed you've ever committed in the past. It is the grand total, but obviously you don't experience all of this at once. If you did, it would be completely overwhelming. So instead, we get this. Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha is just a small, specific slice taken out of your massive sanchita vault. It's the exact portion of karma that's been allotted for you to experience and extinguish in your current life. This is what people are usually talking about when they say destiny or fate. It shapes the environment you're born into, your general circumstances, and the situations you inevitably have to face. But here's the secret. Prarabdha only sets the stage. It absolutely does not write the script of what you do next. And that leads us to what is easily the most powerful concept in this entire explainer, agamiya karma. This is your newly generated karma. It's being created right now in the present moment, purely out of your own free volition, your choices, and your deliberation. This right here, this is your free will, and you are completely 100% responsible for it. To make this crystal clear, let's break this down using a brilliant analogy from our source material that maps karma to a bank account. It really makes the whole thing click. Sanchita is your total savings account balance. Prarabdha is the cash you've withdrawn for your daily expenses today. You have to spend it, you have to experience it. But agamiya? Agamiya is the brand new money you are actively earning today through your fresh actions and investments. So, how does this actually flow in real life?
Let's trace the life cycle. First, you face a situation in life. That's your prarabdha, your withdrawn karma. Next, you use your free will to react to that situation, making fresh choices, and boom, that generates agamiya. Finally, that newly minted agamiya gets deposited straight back into your grand savings account, becoming your future sanchita. It's a continuous, perfectly logical loop.
Now, this actually helps explain the limits of things like astrology. People always ask, hey, if an astrologer can predict my life, where exactly is my free will? The source material uses this great speedometer analogy. An astrologer is basically just someone reading the speedometer on a car. They can see the momentum of your past actions, your prarabdha, but they cannot predict your agamiya. Why? Because your agamiya hasn't even been written yet. You can literally grab the steering wheel and turn it at any moment.
To show you exactly how powerful your choices, your agamiya, can be, the text gives us this fascinating story about two friends. They performed a penance and received a very, very tricky boon from God. The condition was this: whatever you demand, you will get it, but your neighbor will automatically get double. Let's see how these two chose to use their free will with that kind of power.
So the first friend was just completely driven by selfish envy. He asked for a giant bungalow, but when he saw his neighbor got two, he was furious. He asked for a car, his neighbor got two. Consumed by jealousy, he used his final free will choice to say, God, make me blind in one eye. Why? Just so his neighbor would go completely blind in both eyes. But what about the second friend? Well, he used his agamiya completely differently. He heard his neighbor needed 500 rupees for a roof repair, so he secretly used his boon to pray for a bungalow for his neighbor. Because of the rules of the boon, the selfless friend ended up with a house twice as big. Their starting point was exactly the same, but their free will dictated entirely different outcomes. And that right there hits the nail on the head. Agamaya is the undisputed, pivotal point of all karmas. It's the engine of the whole system. It is the absolute birthplace of your future. While you might not be able to control the random situations that pop up in your life today, thanks to past prarabdha, your conscious choices right now are literally manufacturing your reality for tomorrow. So, the crucial point we have to understand is this: not even God can touch your agamiya. The text explains that even if divine grace intervenes to help you out of a tough spot, it can only pull from your past good deeds, your sanchita. God cannot pull from your agamiya because, just like an unwritten exam paper, it doesn't even exist yet. It is completely 100% in your hands. You can't blame the universe, and you certainly can't rely on a deity to just write it out for you. There's this beautiful little anecdote in the text about a young man trying to trick an all-knowing sannyasin. The man holds a butterfly hidden in his closed fist and asks the sage, "Is the butterfly in my hand alive or dead?" His plan was totally devious. If the sage said alive, the man would crush it. If the sage said dead, he would open his hand and let it fly away. The sage just smiled at him and gave this profound answer: whether it is alive or dead is in your hands only.
And really, that is the ultimate takeaway of this explainer. Your virtuous actions are the tools you use to design your future destiny. You conquer a bad fate not by running around performing empty rituals, but by deliberately choosing to execute good, noble deeds right now in the present. If your prarabdha is a storm you're sailing through, your agamiya is the ship's wheel. You have the power to steer. Which brings us to our final thought for today. Predicting the future is literally impossible because your agamiya remains completely unwritten. You are the author. So looking at the bank account of your own life, what new investments are you going to make today? Are you going to let past fate dictate your mood, or will you use your absolute free will to generate an incredible future? The choice, as always, is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.